Pause here, my beloved child. Soft breath, because a message is forming somewhere right now, not in a cloud, not in a prophecy, inside a living human chest that keeps pretending it is made of stone. You have felt the shift, haven't you? Not a dramatic rupture. Not a clean ending. More like the air pressure changing before a storm, your spirit noticing that something in the connection has been pulled taut again. And you told yourself you were imagining it. But that's not what changed everything. It started in a place too ordinary to be sacred, a crowded coffee shop on a weekday afternoon, the kind where people hold their phones like shields and speak in half-sentences. Your soulmate stands in line, eyes glazed, rehearsing a life they can tolerate. Their sleeve smells faintly like detergent and city rain. The espresso machine hisses like a warning. Someone laughs too loudly. A spoon rings against glass. Then a barista calls out a name that isn't yours. Yet their body reacts like it is. Their fingers go cold around their wallet. Because the laugh they heard, sharp, bright, familiar, came from the corner near the window. They turn, just slightly, as if afraid the universe will catch them looking. It isn't you. But it is someone wearing the same kind of calm you used to carry only on your best days. And for a moment, my child, your soulmate sees you in the wrong person's posture, shoulders relaxed, chin lifted, the unbothered grace of someone who stopped begging to be chosen. Not this time. They look away too fast. They pretend they were checking the menu. They swallow the fear like a pill without water. And fear, as you already know, can wear the mask of practicality. I'm just being realistic, they used to tell themselves. Realistic about timing. About money. About healing. About not wanting to mess it up. But their practicality was a costume sewn from old wounds. And every time they didn't reach for you, they called it maturity. There is a detail you haven't considered. Your soulmate didn't hold back because they didn't feel it. They held back because they did. Because your presence did something to them that was both beautiful and unbearable. Like sunlight pouring through a crack in a door they had kept bolted for years, exposing the dust they didn't want to name. And they were afraid that if they opened fully, they would never be able to close again. So they did what frightened hearts often do. They delayed. They edited. They stayed reasonable. And you, my beloved child, were left to translate silence into meaning. Then something happened that made their hands go cold. In that coffee shop, a coworker brushes past them and says, without looking, "You look like you saw a ghost." Your soulmate almost laughs. Almost. They say, too quickly, "I'm fine." But their eyes keep flicking to the window where that calm stranger sits with a friend, smiling down at her phone as if nothing in the world can threaten her peace. Your soulmate pays for their drink they barely want. They step outside, and the wind is sharp, like the city is trying to wake them up. They check their phone. No new notifications. And that emptiness, quiet, ordinary emptiness, hits them harder than any argument ever could. Because it whispers a terrible possibility, maybe you don't need them anymore. Perhaps you never did. Yet they built their courage on the assumption that you would wait. And assumptions, my child, are a dangerous kind of sleep. They walk 2 blocks without tasting the coffee. Their mind starts racing, trying to find a reason this ache is happening today, right now, in daylight. And that is when a thought, small and vicious, slips in: what if I waited too long? It doesn't sound like poetry in their head. It sounds like panic. They stop at a crosswalk. Cars blur past, headlights smearing in the drizzle. Their thumb hovers over your contact the way a hand hovers over a hot stove, remembering pain, craving warmth. But they don't press. Not yet. Because something in them still clings to control, still believes they can time vulnerability the way you time a business email. And so they do the thing they promised themselves they'd never do. They outsource their courage. My beloved child, that night they sit alone at their kitchen table with the overhead light off. Only the stove clock glows green. The curtains breathe slightly with the draft. Their phone is the only true light, blue and unforgiving, turning their knuckles pale. They search. Not for you. For certainty. A psychic. An intuitive. A reader. A stranger with reviews that say, accurate, and scary, and told me what I needed to hear. Their finger shakes when they tap the appointment button. Because deep down, they already know what they are really asking. Not, does this person love me? But something far more humiliating: are they happy without me? And the question alone is a confession. There is another detail you haven't considered. They have been in love with you. Not in a convenient way. Not in a casual, polite way. In a way that rearranged their inner furniture. In a way that made them notice every room they had never cleaned. In a way that made your name feel like a match struck inside a closed jar, bright, dangerous, hungry for air. They tell themselves they're just looking for closure. But you do not pay strangers for closure. You pay for permission. And when the call connects, the psychic's voice is calm, almost bored, like someone who has seen too many hearts walk in wearing armor. You didn't come to ask if they miss you, the psychic says. Your soulmate's throat tightens. They try to keep their voice steady. They manage a weak, no, the psychic continues, you came to ask if they're happy. Silence. Your soulmate swallows. They whisper, yes. And in that moment, my child, it is not you being judged. It is them. Because happiness is not a trophy. It is not a weapon. But to someone who has avoided accountability, another person's peace can feel like punishment. The psychic pauses, as if listening to something beyond the phone line. Then comes the answer. They are, and that is what breaks you. Your soulmate laughs once, sharp and ugly, because it hurts. Their eyes sting. They stare at the dark window above the sink and see their own reflection, older than they expected, emptier than they admit. But that's not the whole message. The psychic adds, softer now, they're building a life that doesn't include waiting. And your soulmate's hands start to shake, because they realize something unbearable: you didn't just survive their silence. You learned from it. You stopped rehearsing conversations with someone who never arrived. You stopped writing endings for someone who refused to write beginnings. Now listen, my beloved child, this is where the story accelerates. Because your soulmate doesn't hang up and immediately become brave. No. They do what people do when they receive truth too heavy to hold. They try to bargain with it. They pace the kitchen. They open the fridge and close it. They drink water like it can drown the ache. And then they remember you. Not as an idea. Not as a lesson. As a person. They remember the last time you went quiet after they needed space, the way your texts got shorter, not passive-aggressive, not dramatic, just smaller. Like watching a flower fold itself at dusk. Intention versus impact, my child. They intended self-protection. The impact was you learning not to reach. They sit on the floor with their back against the cabinet and finally let the thought finish forming, I did that. Not fate. Not timing. Not misunderstanding alone. Me. And it doesn't feel like spiritual punishment. It feels like a mirror with the lights turned on. Then a memory returns, small, almost ridiculous, but it hits like a stone. A rainy afternoon months ago. You and them under the awning of a bookstore. The street smelled like wet paper and car exhaust. You were trying to share an umbrella that kept turning inside out. You laughed, annoyed, trying to fix it. They were stressed about something, family, work, a decision they were afraid to make. You didn't lecture them. You didn't try to control them. You simply reached up, smoothed the collar of their coat, and said, "You don't have to be strong all the time." That was it. No grand confession. No cinematic music. Just your hand, warm and steady, adjusting something they didn't realize was crooked. And it terrified them. Because in that tiny gesture, they felt seen without being demanded from. Loved without being trapped. And that kind of love doesn't feel safe to someone who has only known love as leverage. So they pulled back. They called it, taking it slow. But the truth was uglier and more honest. They were afraid of what they would owe you if they admitted how much they wanted you. Almost. They wiped their face with the sleeve of their shirt like a teenager. They laugh again, but softer, broken. Then the phone buzzes. A message from a friend. Still coming tomorrow? Heard you might be leaving town soon. Your soulmate reads it twice. Because tomorrow is a work gathering. A dull obligation. But leaving town isn't about them. It's about you. They had heard something in passing, an opportunity you applied for, a serious life step that would change your distance from them permanently. A transfer. A program. A contract. A new city that would swallow your old routines whole. They didn't ask you about it because asking would have required admitting they cared. And now the psychic's words press against this new information like a bruise being touched. They're building a life that doesn't include waiting. Your soulmate's mind runs ahead like a dog off leash. If you leave, they can't keep pretending there's time. If you leave, later becomes a lie with a calendar attached. Then something happens that makes their stomach drop. They open social media, just to distract themselves, they tell themselves. And there you are. Not a direct post. not an announcement. A tagged photo from someone else, you at a small celebration, holding a paper cup, smiling in a way that looks quieter than joy, but steadier. Like someone who fought for their peace and won. Beside you, slightly blurred, is a figure, nothing scandalous, nothing dramatic, just a steady presence. Someone standing near you, close enough to be trusted, not posed like a romance, but like safety. Your soulmate stares until their eyes burn. It isn't jealousy first. It's grief. Because it shows them what their delay cost, not you loving someone else, but you learning to be held by life itself. And suddenly their old strategy, silence, control, timing, feels like trying to stop a river with a teaspoon. They whisper, to no one, I protected myself. And the room feels colder, like even the air is disappointed. The next day, in a break room that smells like microwaved leftovers and office printer ink, their friend corners them. Not gently. They've known too long. They've watched the avoidance, the restless scrolling, the way your soulmate flinches at any mention of you. The friend says, do you love them? Your soulmate tries to dodge it with a joke, but it dies before it reaches their mouth. Their voice comes out small. Yes. It is the first time they say it out loud, not to you, not to the night, not to their own chest. Yes. And when they say it, something in them unclenches, like a fist finally admitting it's tired. Their friend doesn't smile. They don't tease. They don't romanticize. They just look at them with that brutal tenderness people reserve for the truth. And they say the line that becomes the thesis, the knife and the medicine, they needed honesty, not perfection. Your soulmate swallows hard. A coworker passes by, hears the tail end, and tosses a careless sentence like it's nothing. If you're gonna do it, do it. People move on fast. It lands like a slap. Too late. Not fully. Not yet. But late enough to make the stakes real. My beloved child, here is what I want you to understand. Love is not proven by intensity in private. Love is proven by integrity in public, by what someone is willing to risk, to repair, to repeat. Words aren't enough. Your soulmate knows this. And that knowledge makes them feel sick, because they have used words like decorations before. They have used, someday, like a blanket to cover their fear. Now the blanket is too small. That night, they go home and the apartment feels unfamiliar, like it belongs to someone else's life. The streetlight outside paints pale bars across the wall through the blinds. The air conditioner clicks on and off, a mechanical heartbeat. They sit on the edge of their bed and finally open your chat. Not your profile. Your chat. Their thumb hesitates over your name like it might bite. Then they scroll. Old messages. Your jokes. Their half-responses. Your patience. Their delays. And there, like a shard of glass in the soft fabric of memory, is the line from you that stops them cold. I don't know how to keep a place for you without losing myself. They stare at it until the letters blur. Because you weren't threatening. You weren't playing games. You were naming a boundary. And boundaries, my child, are holy. They are not walls to punish. They are doors to protect. Your soulmate's breath comes fast. Their fingers go numb. They feel the old instinct rise. Close the app, pretend you never said it, pretend none of this matters. But this time, they don't. Then something happens that makes their throat tighten even more. They notice the date on that message. It was longer ago than they remembered. Time is a quiet predator. It doesn't roar. It simply eats the space where courage could have lived. Your soulmate begins to type. Draft 1, short and safe, hey. Hope you've been well. They stare at it and feel disgust. It's too small for what they've done. It's a coin tossed at a debt. They delete. Draft 2, medium and careful, I've been thinking about you a lot. I'm sorry if I was distant. They reread it and feel the manipulation hiding inside. If. Sorry if. Sorry if you felt. Sorry if it landed wrong. They delete. Draft 3, long and emotional, the kind that tries to make pain poetic. I don't even know where to start. I've missed you. I've been afraid. I thought I was protecting us, but their chest tightens. It sounds like a confession trying to become an excuse. It sounds like a person asking for forgiveness without naming the crime. They delete. Draft 4, risky, honest in a way that could be rejected. I love you. I've loved you. And I handled it selfishly. They freeze. Because love, spoken at the wrong time, can be a weapon. It can be a way to pull someone back into orbit without changing the gravity that hurt them. And they know you, my beloved child. They know you have grown. They can feel it in the silence of your recent absence. So they do something new. They stop trying to sound impressive. They stop trying to sound wounded. They try to sound true. Their hands shake as they type again. Their body reacts like honesty is a physical cliff. But before they can finish, a notification pops up. A mutual acquaintance has posted, going away dinner for the one and only. Your soulmate clicks without thinking. The photo loads slowly. Your face appears first, smiling, eyes bright. A small banner in the background, congratulations. And below, in the caption, a phrase that punches the air out of your soulmate's lungs, can't believe you're moving next week. This is the twist that isn't dramatic. It's human. It's time. Your soulmate sits very still as if motion will make it real. So it's true. You are leaving. And their courage, finally arriving, might be arriving to an empty station. Then something worse. They return to your chat and look at the top of the screen. Your profile picture is gone. Not deleted. Gone in the way that suggests a setting changed. Restricted. Privacy tightened. A boundary enforced. They type a single word, wait, and hit send, almost without permission from their own brain. A small error message appears. Not delivered. They blink. They try again. Not delivered. Your soulmate's breath catches. Their mouth goes dry. Their hands turn clammy, like they are holding a fish that keeps slipping. You changed your number. Or you blocked. Or you simply closed a door because your peace mattered more than their late arrival. And suddenly, all their careful drafts become useless. Too late. Almost. My beloved child, listen to me now. This is where you must not confuse desperation with devotion. A desperate person will say anything to stop the bleeding. A devoted person will do what is right even if it doesn't guarantee reward. You do not chase. You do not abandon your dignity to soothe someone else's regret. Your boundaries are holy, and you can listen without surrendering. If they come with words but no change, you can stay still. You are allowed to be soft and unmoved. You are allowed to hear the message and still choose your peace. Now, watch what your soulmate does. They don't throw the phone. They don't curse you. They sit there, staring at the blank space where your face used to be, and something in them collapses, not into drama, but into clarity. They whisper, "I was afraid." It is not a performance. It is a surrender. And then, because they cannot reach you through the old door, they start looking for another one that doesn't violate your boundaries. They open their contacts. They scroll to a mutual friend. Their thumb hovers. They stop. They breathe. Because they know triangulation is another kind of cowardice. So instead, they open their notes app. If they cannot send it now, they will still write it true. Not for a guarantee. For accountability. They begin to type slowly, as if each word costs something. They keep it simple. They keep it clean. No blaming. No, you didn't understand. No, I was busy. No, I'm broken. Just ownership. They type a sentence, then erase it. They type again. Their phone screen reflects in their eyes like a small moon, cold and honest. And then they decide to call a number they haven't called in months, the mutual friend who hosted that going-away dinner. The phone rings. Once. Twice. On the third ring, the friend answers, voice cautious, "Hello?" Your soulmate's voice cracks. Do you have their new number? A pause, heavy. The friend says, flat, "Why?" Your soulmate swallows. Because I owe them the truth. Another pause. The friend exhales through their nose like they are measuring whether your soulmate has earned access. They say, truth isn't a speech. It's what you do after you say it. Your soulmate whispers, "I know." Then the friend gives them a condition, not a gift. I'll ask them if they're open to hearing from you. You don't get to force your relief onto them. Yes, your soulmate says. Yes. That's fair. When the call ends, the apartment is quiet again, but the quiet has changed. It isn't the quiet of avoidance. It is the quiet of consequences. Then time becomes a weapon. 30 seconds. They stare at the screen. 2 minutes. They refresh their messages like the act of refreshing might rewrite the past. 10 minutes. Their leg bounces uncontrollably. Their mouth tastes metallic. Their stomach feels hollow, as if guilt has eaten dinner. They opened the notes again and read what they wrote. It isn't romantic. It isn't clever. It's adult. It says, I was inconsistent. I disappeared behind practical excuses. I let you carry uncertainty. You deserved clarity. I don't expect anything from you, but I needed you to hear that I see what I did. They add one more line and their hands tremble because it is the most dangerous kind of honesty. Love isn't enough if I don't change. They set the phone down like it might explode. Then it buzzes. A text from the mutual friend. You can send one message. They said one. No calls. Your soulmate's heart slams against their ribs so hard it feels like it might bruise. Their fingers go numb. The friend includes the number. Your soulmate copies it with shaking hands and opens a new message thread. A blank space. A fresh window. A chance that is not a guarantee. They type your name at the top, not as a contact, just as a label inside their own trembling. They stare at the empty cursor blinking like a tiny lighthouse in fog. And the old instinct returns, make it pretty. Make it moving. Make it impossible to ignore. But they remember the thesis. Honesty. Not perfection. They begin to type. Draft 1, too timid, hey, it's me. Delete. Draft 2, too pleading, I know I don't deserve a reply, but please, delete. Draft 3, too defensive, I never meant to hurt you. I was dealing with a lot. Delete. Draft 4, finally accountable, I hurt you by being inconsistent and unclear. I'm sorry. I understand if you don't want to hear from me. They pause, eyes burning. They add another line, and this is where their courage stops being about getting you back and starts being about respecting you. If you're open, I'd like to earn trust slowly, through actions, not pressure. They stop. They read it again. They feel the urge to add, I love you, like a stamp that makes it official. But they don't. Not because they don't feel it. Because they know love can be used as a shortcut. And you, my beloved child, are not a shortcut. They place their thumb near the send button. Hovering. A millimeter away. Their breathing is loud in the room. Their shoulders are tense. Their eyes are wet. They whisper, I'm in love with you. It comes out like a prayer and a bruise. They don't expect the room to answer. They expect themselves to become someone who finally tells the truth without demanding a reward. Then, as if the universe itself is holding its breath, their phone vibrates again, one more message from the mutual friend, don't make this about your guilt. Make it about their safety. Your soulmate nods to no one. Yes, they whisper. Yes. My beloved child. Pause, do you see how the stakes have risen without any villain, without any spectacle? Just a human finally meeting the consequences of delay. Just you choosing peace. Just them learning that love, if it is real, will respect your no as much as it craves your yes. And now the final seconds arrive like footsteps in a quiet hallway. 30 seconds. Their thumb hovers. 2 minutes. They don't press send. They imagine your face when you see the unknown number. They imagine you stiffening, protective. They imagine your voice, not angry, just tired. Why now? They imagine you saying, "You hurt me." They imagine you, wiser than before, looking straight through any attempt to romance your boundary and saying, "Don't promise me forever, show me Tuesday." Their throat tightens because you would be right. 10 minutes. The cursor blinks. Their palms sweat. The message sits there, waiting, like a bridge that might hold, or might collapse. They consider recording a voice note instead, something that proves they're real, something that can carry remorse in tone, not just text. They press and hold to record. The timer starts. 0:01, they inhale. 0:04, their voice trembles. Hey. 0:06. They stop. They delete the recording. Because even now, they can feel how easy it would be to sound sincere and still stay unchanged. So they return to the text. They read it one last time. They remove one line that sounds like a plea. They replace it with one that sounds like respect. Their thumb lowers toward the send button, slow as sunrise, heavy as consequence. And right before it touches, the screen dims slightly from inactivity, as if time itself is daring them to either act or retreat. They tap the screen to wake it. The message is still there. The send arrow glows like a small blade. My beloved child, this is where your story and their story touch a threshold, not of destiny, but of decision. Because if they send, they will have to live like they meant it. And if they don't, they will have to live with the truth that they chose comfort over courage again. Their thumb hovers. Their breath catches. And the first sentence they typed was not what anyone would expect.